un ratico.
Hola, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I am so privileged to be on this stage today with these amazing women, some of whom I've known for 17 or 18 years, and others I just met today. So we're gonna have an amazing conversation, really exploring women in football. As the lovely introduction had said, my name is Danielle, and I'm vice president of The Collective. The Collective really exists through a global sports organization called Wasserman. And our vision, we've been around for about 5 years, is solely to inspire, educate, and advocate for women, girls and women around the world through sports, music, and entertainment. And what an amazing honor it is to be here today with all of you, to be able to talk a little bit more about girls, women, football, everything from playing all the way up to the amazing career journeys that this had. And I would like to just start out before we get into our questions that it's so important for both women and men to be a part of this conversation. So I want to applaud all of you for being here and listening to the perspective of these amazing women. All right, you ready to get started? All right, let's do it. So the first thing I wanted to do was really just have each panelist talk a little bit about their current role, being a woman in football, but just what you do and how you got here as we get into some of our conversations. So I'll start right to my left here. Heidi was my first boss, as I mentioned, 17 years ago. So I was able to not only look up to an amazing woman as I started my career, but now sit alongside her today, which is an awesome privilege. So Heidi, let's start with you.
Awesome, thank you, Danielle. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here and see so many familiar faces on a wonderful Monday here in Miami. But I think my journey is a little bit the unconventional one. Most people know this by now, but I'm an electrical engineer. I started my career as a consultant for the military in the United States. And I tell people I had my midlife crisis at 23. I started to think about how long you have to work and what you get to do and retirement and all these things. Don't ask me why it started at 23, but I quickly realized that you never know, how gifted how long your life can be and the gifts that you're gonna be given along the way. But what better way to use the life that you have by doing something you truly love? So I decided I wanted to work in sports. I had no idea how to explain that to anybody because I didn't even know myself what that meant. But I quickly realized that it was not that easy. Everybody saw an engineer whose resume says works at the Pentagon, intern at NASA. So I had to really show them my commitment. So I went back to school and I really proved it out. And I started from the bottom and worked my way up. Today I get to be the Chief Commercial Officer at CONCACAF. It's a great privilege to lead an amazing team that is working through the transformation of the Confederation commercially speaking. And that means that we get to lead all the revenue generation for the Confederation so that we can continue to invest behind the sport and let it grow.
No pressure on the math questions with Miss NASA engineer up here. Isabel, how about you?
Yes, thank you, Danielle. Well, I actually started out as a soccer player, so that really paved the pathway for me to start working in soccer. My first opportunity actually came when I was living in Switzerland, and I was paying for a very, very small team called FC Stade Lyonnais, where I had the opportunities to start interning at UEFA. But I originally was studying political science, so I never had this idea to start working in football. It just kind of fortunately landed in my lap. And when I had the opportunity to start working in the business of football, it was just such a great experience to collide the professional experience that I have, but also this business experience that I was learning. And since then, I've been working with different professional football clubs, leagues, federations. But right now, I'm with the Bundesliga, and I'm heading all their marketing activities, communications, and partnerships to develop a clear and strong pathway for Bundesliga in the Americas.
Amazing. Valeria, how about you?
I kind of have a very different path too. Hello, everybody. So I'm a journalist, and I have worked 20 years in film. So it's kind of like, how did I end up here? So actually, I lived in Miami 13 years ago for 13 years and worked for the Miami International Film Festival. Then I went back to Brazil and worked for the Olympics, where I was my first time being in the role that I am right now. I was the head of arrivals and departures for the Rio Olympic Games. And then from there, it has been 10 years of the same path. From Rio Olympic Games, I did Pan American Games for Peru. Then I joined Japan for the 2020 Olympics, and then I joined FIFA. And for the past 4 years and a half, I have been with FIFA doing all their tournament and events, which has been a pleasure because going from a very different World Cup that we had, the last one, 2022 in Qatar. 6 months later, I was in New Zealand and Australia delivering the New Zealand World Cup into countries. It was an amazing experience, how different it was to see a delivery of a men's World Cup and a women's World Cup, and how it changed a lot, the perspective of that delivery. And now we are here in Miami and the United States, Mexico, and Canada delivering this. That is going to be one of the, not only the biggest World Cup that we have ever seen, but I think in my perspective, which is the airport operations, one of the biggest operations for sporting events that we have ever delivered in sports. So it's a little bit of a different path. So if you have never studied sports or have never studied sports management, there's always a way of you ending up here with us. So just focus and go for what you like.
Last but not least, Janelle.
So I have a similar story, and Heidi and I had the privilege of working together in CONCACAF for about 3 years. I knew nothing about sports, and one day I got a phone call. I was working at Diageo. I was running their community reinvestment program called Learning for Life, and I also have some former colleagues here. My passion has always been community sustainability. And I received a phone call because Miami is a very small town, and they said, do you want to come and do the 2020 Super Bowl? And it was a huge joke amongst my friends. They said, you're the one that shows up in the wrong colors to the game, and I said to them, I go, listen, I know two things. I know how to market, I know how to communicate, and I know how to tailgate and be in the suite. I said, I'll figure out the game. I know how to do my job. And that was my transition into sports. And to me, what I saw, what sports was an opportunity to create sustainable change in communities. And that's what my passion is. And then I get a call from CONCACAF, from my former boss, who's around there somewhere, Nick Noble, and he says, do you want to come and join the CONCACAF team? And again, everybody was like, what do you know about the real football? And I said, not much, but I'll learn it. And 3 years of, trial by fire, and a lot of my former colleagues are here, really fell in love with the sport, understood the passion that people have for it around the world. And that is what led me to now being the Chief Commercial and Community Officer, which I fought for the community piece because I know how important this is too. I'm a Miami girl, born and raised. So excited that we have 7 matches here and hope to do a great job and do my football family proud.
Amazing. Well, your vast experiences, I think, will be perfect fodder for our conversation today. So I want to start off with just the conversation around the World Cup, right? Coming to these 3 countries. It's going to be quite the feat over the next few years, and I know you'll all be really busy. But would like to talk a little bit about what that means for women maybe working for your organizations, the community, not only in Miami, but all of the host cities, and what impact that will have. We've done a lot of research. I'm sure you all know when you have an Olympics or a World Cup, and you see these amazing athletes on this world stage, it inspires so many people. And even a men's World Cup, we see a huge increase in the amount of girls and women who also want to continue either playing or being a fan. So I know the impact that you all have over the next few years will be incredible. So maybe let's start with Janelle down there. You have a history of creating legacy and really societal change through sports and all the work you've done. So what do you see for Miami, and what are you excited about?
You know, I'm going to go back to CONCACAF because that's my closest reference. Working with Heidi and the team and just these incredible women, Heidi has always been a champion for not only creating, commercial opportunity, but then how do we create opportunities in our community? We had the privilege of working together to launch Bigger Game, which is CONCACAF's community reinvestment program. Everybody is very excited about it. And I hope to be able to not only piggyback off of that, I think that we all have to work together in order to deliver this World Cup. This is not something that me and my committee and Nico, who's our commercial director over there, is going to be able to do by himself. So what we're looking to do is really create tangible change. And Danielle, you and I were talking about this. In the US, we don't have an issue with, we have several pitches. I have people calling me every day saying we need to build pitches, sponsors that are interested in that. What we need to create is access. This country has a pay-to-play, environment, and what we're gonna be doing is focusing on taking the values of the sport. We have a lot that we're gonna be focusing on environmentally. That's very important to South Florida, and to a lot of the folks that are coming on board to support us, how we're making sure we're reducing single-use plastic. And then when we look at access and programming, it's gonna be about taking those values of the sport, and really, this is, like we say, right? The sport is just the most passionate, and it is the great equalizer. And so what we wanna do is provide access to medical care, mental health training, empowerment for girls. We all know on the stage, right, that there's so many challenges when girls just wanna play the sport. And they're not considered, they're coached a different way. So we're taking that all into consideration, open to ideas and collaboration. But yeah, we want to make sure that we create really something that's gonna be valuable for our communities moving forward.
So if you're asking Janelle for a favor or a question, make sure you have a good societal idea behind it, right? Yeah, Valeria, how about you? We were talking this morning about not only your intense logistics role that you have, but we were talking about the staffing and some of the gender equality staffing. So I'm wondering what legacy you might see through your work and your leadership.
So what we were talking before is that I really truly believe that there's already a lot of women in sports. What we need is platforms like this to showcase them. I think like us, there's a lot of other women already doing so much. So from hosting committees like we see Janelle being part, we have so many other leaders of hosting committees on the other cities. They are going to be part of the 16 host cities. Also, we have here in Miami, in FIFA 2026, Amy Hoffinger, which is the chief of planning and integration. She is a woman. So I think we are here. There's already a lot of us there. What we need is to create the network, to help each other, and to actually give the platform to showcase us. I just moved from Zurich after 4 years and a half, but because I was part of another area, which was entertainment community, the first thing that I did when I joined FIFA was, where are the other women? I need to be part of this. So I joined the Women in Football in UK. I am part of the Women's Network in FIFA. So I think it's us finding each other in our communities and in the United States and in Mexico and in Canada and other, to support each other and to help each other, to bring us to where we already are. It's not that we are not there, it's just to showcase. It's like women's football. It's not that we are not amazing. We are already amazing. It's just maybe people were not watching, I think that's what happened that's my perception when I went to New Zealand and Australia and watched for the first time live the Women's World Cup, The amount of girls, 16 years old, they were part of the teams. And I look at them like, how old are you? And they said, I'm 16. I said, what are you doing here? No, I'm so good. I'm part of the under 17, under 20, and I'm the national team. And everybody watch and look at the explosion that happened after that. So they're already playing. What we need is a spotlight on them. So it's the same for us, we're already here. Just give us some spotlight and give us help. Let's help each other to get where we are, and spotlight each other. And the network is what is missing, I think.
It's so important. I think you brought up not only the amazing growth we've seen for women's football globally over the last few years, and we're continuing to see that growth, but also just for professionals, right? And continuing to spotlight that. This is live streamed, yes, Carolina? Yes, so let's make sure we share these voices through this session. Isabel, I know, I believe Bundesliga's, the internationalization mantra is football as it's meant to be. And so I'm wondering how that translates maybe as we're gearing up for a World Cup in an area that you're challenged to grow, right? From a marketing perspective, and what that means for girls and women, or just the sport in general for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the Bundesliga, when it comes to the World Cup 2026, we're not necessarily going to have teams on the ground here, right? We will have global stars, local heroes, but we want to be able to translate this football as it's meant to be messaging to the fans in Canada, in the US, and in Mexico, and those that are traveling over for World Cup 26. And the numbers, when you look at how many women fans there are, extraordinary. In Mexico, there are 57 million football fans, men and women. 47% of those fans are women, which is a huge, huge number, and something that we're not seeing in other markets in the Americas, let alone our other global strategic markets. So I think it's very important for the Bundesliga to continue to activate grassroots programs, community engagement programs, so that we're creating opportunities for young girls and women to be able to play the game, but also to have the educational tools and mentorship tools to be able to learn more about the sport and to be in the sport. So I think, you know, the way that we're activating as a league, but also how our clubs, our Bundesliga 1 and 2 clubs are activating with young girls and adults in the Americas is just a fantastic way to be able to leverage World Cup 2026.
That's amazing. Before we get to Heidi, there just did some research as well. So globally, 71% of women consider themselves avid sports fans. So 71% of the world's population. And not surprised, their number one sport of fandom is football. And I think a lot of times, no matter the gender of the actual competition, right, we forget the women fans, and there are still marketing and advertisements that don't show them as having as an avid fandom or being able to talk about what was happening on the pitch, right? And so putting women even as fandom in those roles, I think, is so critical, and I hope the World Cup efforts that you all will be working on will continue to elevate that for women as sports fans. But Heidi, how about you? So you are in charge of 41, right? I believe different, probably amazingly diverse groups of people. What does the World Cup being in your territory mean for you, especially in Miami, but also across the continents?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when our president, Victor Montagliani, took over the Confederation, he always said that biggest thing we wanted to focus was to put football first. He felt that previous administrations forgot that, right? That's what our job is as a confederation. Our job is to develop the sport, and we always need to be centered around that. But we have 41 members, 3 in North America, 7 in Central America, and 31 Caribbean islands. Completely different realities for all of them, both on the men's side and the women's side. So when you have an event like the World Cup in our side of the world, it's a couple of things that we want to do. First, by FIFA expanding the World Cup, that means more of our members have an opportunity to qualify to the World Cup itself. So that in itself creates an energy and a discussion through the World Cup qualifiers to see which new Central American team can maybe get in. Maybe there's a new Caribbean team that gets the opportunity to go represent for the first time. We saw that with the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, where we were able to get Panama as a first-time participant, as well as Haiti. So that's what the opportunity creates, because now that develops this idea of investment, right? Because if you look, I'm from Puerto Rico, right? And we always talked about this, that in Puerto Rico, you would go through World Cup qualifying, and let's say you don't win those, so then you're done, right? And then you're spending the rest of the 3 years looking for friendlies. Well, people say, okay, I'll play a friendly with you, but it will cost you X amount of money, right? And they're saying, well, that's the budget for the cycle. So what we've done is create more competition, right? And then FIFA creating more competition, it feeds the entire system where now people are saying, I can go to government and say, can you help us with the new stadium? Can you help us with those grassroots program? So that's really is the mindset and that's the beauty of this game, that it is truly global and we're all connected and hopefully all working together towards a common goal, which is to get more kids to play the game. And then if you get to a certain level that maybe you top out and don't get to play professionally, that you can still be a passionate fan, right? And I think that's how the whole ecosystem feeds. And that's what we hope, to have that access, that we have more teams being able to not only play, but hopefully more of our fans have the opportunity to travel and experience this. If you talk to anybody in this country that's in probably upper 30s to 40s, maybe even 50s, when you talk to them, when did you first fall in love with football? You know, they will say it was 1994. So that's the opportunity this does, right? To be part of that experience, feel it, experience it live. It really does maybe drive increased participation, but also increase fandom.
Larry, you started off on this amazing tangent when you were talking about some of your work and what we need to do to better empower women. And we're all sitting up here because we've been really fortunate probably to have mentors, sponsors, probably both men and women who have enabled us to learn and grow and be who we are, right, as women in sports, which is an incredible thing. But the reality is we're still facing a lot of inequities. Even young early professionals today, women report still feeling discriminated against, still dealing with pay equity issues in the front office or in leadership roles, and they are less confident and they're less willing to take risks and ask for those promotions or share their ideas. And this is even today, we're still seeing this. So I'd just love to shift to honest conversation, a little bit off script, right? What do we need this group to do? What do we need people to hear? How can we empower a better, workplace and environment? We've come so far, but still so much work to do. So I'd love for you to tell me and the audience and those that are watching our live stream, what needs to happen? What is your experience, and how can we look forward to a better future in the sport of football?
So I think in FIFA we are very fortunate because, for example, from the moment that I joined FIFA, we had a president that was a man, and Fatma Zamora, which was a woman, as a secretary general for seven years. She just stepped out, and then we had several different members, like confederation presidents, not yet. But then we have, on the other levels, we have several chiefs, we have several directors that are also women. The quality is not there yet, but I think we are on the path. I think we need to provoke, and that's what we at the Women's Network in FIFA we're trying to do. Is not only sit there and watch, but we are provoking, but I think it's a path that we are navigating together, and it's getting there. It's like women's football rival, it's not new. If we were already playing amazingly well before, like the first World Cup happening in South America now with Brazil in 2027, it was expected. It was about to come. It's happening now. So I think we are going to get there. It's just a way, we just cannot stop provoking. I think our roles here is to continue to be provoking that, and continue to put the spotlight on it. So whatever jobs each of us have in the positions that we have, we need to continue to question those put the questions on the table, and not only, and it's equal pay for the winning teams, it's equal pay for the big champions, but it's also equal pay in the work environment. So I think that is our path as leaders, to continue to open the questions, and that's the best that we can do.
Provoke away. I love it. Yes. Okay.
Well, I'll add this. So as I took on this role a few months ago, I've been getting lots of beautiful messages from people saying, my daughter plays, or my daughter wants to get into sports. The only thing I take a little offense to is that they're all like, you're an inspiration for young women. And I say, you mean younger women? So all those messages, but I think that when we have this conversation, we always direct it to the women, right? What we have to do and how we have to open up doors and break down those walls. And, you know, I always go back and I say, well, we need to bring the men into this conversation, right? And I hate that it's men versus women many times, right? And that we have to carve out a separate niche for ourselves, you know? We want to be in the niche that's already been carved out. And I think that we do that by not breeding competition amongst ourselves. I think that society and culture kind of sometimes pits us against each other because the spots are limited. And it's, you know, I've never met an insecure man in a position of leadership. And I always kind of pride myself, right, of creating access for other women. I think that's really important, bringing them to the table. I have worked with so many people that they call me to this day. If I can find them an opportunity, connect them, and with wanting nothing, in return. So I think that it's just having those conversations with men, and they all have wives and daughters that they also want to see excel, and not kind of create that culture of it's the women fighting to get to the table, right? So I think we all have a big responsibility in this, and then us in general, it's just that of creating opportunities, have someone come and mentor with you, follow you along for the day, and that's something that we can all do together.
I'll one-up you there, Janelle, and say I hope that not only younger generation women that you're an inspiration for, but you're an inspiration for a younger generation. Hard stop, right? Our women athletes and our women executives, I hope we're getting to a place where we can be an inspiration to young men, young boys and girls, regardless of gender, right? And we're all seen on that playing field in that perspective. So
can I add something? I mean, I will tell you, I agree with everything that was shared, but I like to change the perspective a little bit. I don't like the perspective being just about gender, male, female, right? Being female is one of the many characteristics that defines me. It's not the only characteristic that defines me, right? Just like being a man is not the only characteristic that defines many of you in the audience. It's one of many. And I think that's where a lot of times the conversation falls short, that it makes it about one characteristic instead of what the characteristic means, which is maybe a different experience, a different perspective. But also it's the different perspective for me growing up in Puerto Rico, a small island, versus the perspective of growing up in Miami, et cetera, right? Or being able to play football. That provides a different perspective. I was just a fan, never good enough, but I played another sport, right? Because I'm tall, right? And I think that's what I don't like, because a lot of the conversation, by making it so binary, then makes it more conflicting and more like we're at odds, right? Because you have to be a 0 or 1 for those computer geeks out there. But no, it's about really bringing diversity of experience. The more diverse experience you bring to any situation, I assure you, we all win, right? And I think that's what I would like to encourage everybody to think about, and not just pick somebody, because we also have the negative effect where somebody says, we got to go get a woman. We got to fit that, and then we pick the wrong woman that's not ready for that responsibility, or we don't give her the tools. And then we say, you see, we tried. They're not ready for these kind of responsibilities. So I really would, as people that have shown up today, really encourage you guys to help change the narrative.